Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you how to rebuild your Spotlight index. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign. Join us and get exclusive content and course discounts. So when you use a Mac, you probably hear the term Spotlight a lot. It actually refers to several related things. So when you search for a file, sometimes that's called a Spotlight search. Also, when you use Command Space or the little magnifying glass in the menu bar, that's called the Spotlight menu. And when you use either of these, you're actually using something called the Spotlight index to perform the search. So for instance, we can use this button here or just Command Space and it brings up the Spotlight menu. When you type a term here, it's actually searching many different places, including web pages, the Photos app, the dictionary, etc. If you want to find files, you certainly can sometimes see them here at the top, or if you scroll down you can usually see things like presentations or documents. Now in the Finder you could start at a particular folder and click the magnifying glass here, or you can use Command F to start a Spotlight search, and I'd only be searching this directory here. Depending upon your settings you can always switch to searching your entire Mac. But it's only going to be looking for files. No web pages, photos, or anything else. So if I search here and press return, you can see I get all sorts of documents here, some of which have Wombat in the name, others which don't. Before I complete the search itself, I do have the choice to choose just file names or content. So what's actually happening here is not really a search. You would imagine a search to work by your Mac looking at every single file at that location and seeing if the name matches the term or if the contents are found inside, going from file to file and listing the results. That would actually take a very long time. Even with today's super fast computers and hard drives, there are just so many files and it takes so long to open and look at each one. So instead, searches are made much faster by using an index. An index is just like an index in a print book. You wouldn't search through the pages of a book when you want to find something, reading every word to find it. You would go to the index in the back, look up that word, and then it would list the page numbers where that word could be found. The Spotlight index works the same way. It notes all the file names and all the contents in every file and then indexes them. So when you type a word, it could just look up the word in the index, and the index would then show which files contained that word in the name or content of the file, and then would quickly list them. When you first get your Mac and set it up, it will generate the Spotlight index and it will update it as you add and change files. In addition, sometimes the Spotlight index is completely recreated from scratch, like after a major update. And with all sorts of different apps that we download and add to our Macs and extensions and different ways we search and do things, sometimes the Spotlight index will break. It will get corrupted in some way and maybe you won't be able to find files that you know are there, or there could be other problems like Spotlight gets really slow or returns inconsistent results. So if Spotlight search either with Command Space or by using Command F in the Finder isn't working for you quite right, you could always try to re-index Spotlight. There's a really simple way to do this, but it's not very intuitive. In macOS Ventura you want to go to System Settings. You would go to System Preferences before Ventura. Then you want to look for Siri and Spotlight. And before Ventura there's just a section called Spotlight. But in either case you would look for the Privacy button. If you go there you're going to see this window and you could add locations to prevent Spotlight from searching those locations. Now you could use this for actual privacy reasons. For instance, if there's a folder that for some reason you never want those files to show up in searches, you could hit the plus button here and select the folder and add it. Typically there's no reason to ever do this, but occasionally there might be something like a folder filled with files created by an application and they're always showing up in your Spotlight searches. You could always add that folder there and those files will no longer bother you when you search. But you can also use this to re-index Spotlight. So all you would do is open up this window and then you'd go to the top level, your hard drive, and then you would add this to the privacy settings there. Now when I do a search, you're going to see nothing comes up. It's because the index doesn't have anything from my local hard drive, so it's certainly not going to find anything in the Documents folder. So to re-index, all you need to do is once you've added it, select it again and then remove it. And now it will add it back. Now this is going to take some time. Here you can see if I do a search, only a fraction of what I had before. Just things with file names for now. And if I do Command Space, I can actually see right up here it shows indexing and there's a progress bar. At the beginning the progress bar will do this, going back and forth, showing it's preparing. Then you may see it for a time with blue filling the entire bar. But eventually you'll see it gradually fill up the bar until it's complete. Until then you'll still find things outside of Spotlight. It'll be a limited set of results in documents. It won't be until this is complete that you can be sure that you get all the results. Now you may think this is a really strange way to do something on your Mac. Shouldn't there be a button there in System Settings or maybe a menu item in the Finder or something? Well, this is the way to do it. And in fact Apple even has a support page right here. And on the support page they show exactly this method for adding to the privacy list and then removing it again. Now there are some things that you can do with Spotlight indexing in the terminal. You can use mdutil and then if you just use SA, the S is going to list the status and A for all volumes. And you can see here that indexing is enabled for everything. If we had checked that while the Mac hard drive was added to the privacy list, you would see it disabled for the main volume. Now you can use this command, mdutil -E lowercase a. And that will attempt to rebuild all of the different Spotlight indexes on all of the attached volumes. You need to put sudo in front of it because then you need to give it permission to run. It's going to prompt you for your password. But in almost all cases you shouldn't need to use this. Using the System Settings method is all that you should need to re-index Spotlight. Now a word about when to use this. First of all, I would only rebuild your Spotlight index if you really believe there's a problem with Spotlight. Don't do it just to see maybe if it speeds things up a little bit or something like that. There should be a clear problem, like files that are definitely there that are definitely not showing up when you do a search. Second, it's going to take a while to rebuild the Spotlight index. So the ideal time to do this is at the end of the day when you're not going to be using your Mac for a while. Of course you should let your Mac sleep overnight. Don't shut it down. That's something you should be doing anyway every night. And of course if you're using a MacBook it should be plugged into power because it's going to be busy working on this and that will drain the battery. So I hope you learned something about Spotlight Index. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.